Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Scouting for Chelsea on Chelsea Perspective. But before we continue, please smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and more importantly, click on the bell notification button so you don't miss anything. So, let's get into business. Today, I have with me a friend, a returning guest, and somebody who knows the club very well, and talking about none other person but McKyle. McKyle, welcome back to Chelsea Perspective.
Thank you for having me, Coachila. It's great to be back.
It's a pleasure to have you back. I always look to tap into your knowledge of the game, especially when it comes to talking about Chelsea. So, McKyle, welcome again. What player did you scout, and what position does he play?
Today, I've scouted a forward by the name of Dusan Vlahovic. He's a 21-year-old Serbian that's currently playing for Serie A club Fiorentina. He's scored 21 goals in the Serie A season.
We'll come back to his assists. So you said Dusan Vlahovic of Fiorentina in Italy.
Yes.
And he is 21 years old. And yes, that's a good one. An attacking position is somewhere we truly do need reinforcement, if you would like to put it that way, because we were very wasteful last season. So Dusan Vlahovic of Fiorentina in Italy, and he is from Serbia, right?
Yes.
He's from Serbia. Great. So, McKyle, why did you want Chelsea to go for Dusan Vlahovic? Because there's always this argument that players don't really do well when they move from the Italian sides to the Premier League. That's why there's always the argument to go for somebody who's Premier League proven or somebody who's already played for a Premier League club, such as Lukaku. Why do you want Chelsea to sign Dusan Vlahovic?
Many reasons. Firstly, he's a 21-year-old guy. He's just starting out on his professional career. He's got two professional seasons under his belt, and yes. His last season he scored 21 goals. By comparison to, let's say, somebody like Romelu Lukaku, who plays in the same league, has scored 24 goals in that same season. So Dusan doesn't play for an Inter Milan; he plays for a Fiorentina, which are a lesser team. So the correlation would be that if Dusan were playing for a better team, those numbers probably would be slightly higher as well, even though they're impressive as is. 21 goals in a season is a decent return. Dusan is 1.9 meters tall, 6'2", 6'3". That's a tall guy. He has good strength. He has upper body strength. He can hold off players. He's excellent with aerial duels. He's got a burst of speed in him. He can run with the ball. He can turn with the ball and run with the ball. And these are things that we have struggled with collectively. We have had Giroud at our club, and we have had Tammy at our club. And both are kind of bring separate strengths to the game. And Dusan is, if you will, kind of like a mix of the two, perhaps, in that he can combine well with the build-up play because he can turn with the ball as well. But he is also excellent as the target man. And he can score from the box, and he can help get the ball up the pitch in the build-up play as well. Because he is strong, because he can turn with the ball, these are strengths that I see have a correlation to what Chelsea is missing right now in our attacking sector. Especially when you tie in the fact that Giroud is most probably has left Chelsea now. I think he's been revealed by AC Milan.
Possibly.
And Tammy's up in the air. We don't know if he's going to be here for next season or not. There is the question of the need for a striker, a young striker, a very reasonably priced striker. Like this striker has not, the valuation is very reasonable right now. And I would not be surprised if he's picked up this summer by a rival club of Chelsea, possibly in the Premier League.
That's a great response to that question there, because you seem to argue that he has all the attributes He's a mashup. You can say he's a mashup of the strikers we already have at the club. So he's a hybrid of Olivier Giroud and who's the other player again?
Well, we have Tammy as an alternative. You can think of Timo maybe, but Timo is a unique player.
Pace.
He brings brings a different type of game. His pace is above average. Timo. I'm not going to say Vlahovic is an above average in terms of his sprints, but he can run with the ball, and he can run with the ball from the half line, let's say, towards collect the ball and run with it and progress the ball upfield as well. So these are traits that maybe Giroud is lacking in. Giroud, while he was a good target man, he didn't have the pace to run with the ball like that, right? So that was a limitation in Giroud's game, and that's why we didn't see Giroud getting a lot of game time over the years at Chelsea. So Dusan being younger, being more agile, being stronger like Giroud still, and having that good balance to turn with the ball, to be that target man, but also help with progressing the ball up the field after that. I think these are qualities that can work well in a squad like Chelsea has right now.
Yeah, because we like to build from the back to the attack. So we prefer attackers that is an attacker who's an all-round player, not just a poacher. An attacker who can drop back, support the play, and then be there to meet at the end. That is to be at the end of crosses, whether in the air and on the ground. And like you said, he's 6 foot plus. That means he's tall. And I did, if my memory serves me right, you said something about his aerial ability is great. He's good on the ball. He can run with the ball. And that means, like I said before, he's a mashup of all the attackers that we have at the club. And that is very good to know. So let me ask you this question. It's important to establish this so people don't get into fight without knowing where we're driving at with this conversation, or let me say debate. Are you suggesting Dusan Vlahovic as an alternative to Erling Haaland, or even, let me say, Romelu Lukaku also? Are you suggesting him as somebody we need to have in the squad, even if we do sign Erling Haaland?
A couple of points to make there. Firstly, I do not presume to present this player as a alternative to Haaland. Haaland, if we can get Haaland, let's go for Haaland. I would, however, position Vlahovic as an alternative to Lukaku, because Lukaku is very similar in terms of production, but is much older and is much more expensive, probably 2 to 3 times more expensive right now than Dusan Vlahovic. So for me, this is a much more shrewd deal to pursue for Chelsea as a club, where you get a younger player that has potentially another 10 years of peak game time to develop with the club, to develop under a coach like Thomas Tuchel, to develop around attacking players like we have currently in the Chelsea squad. This guy can go a long way. And interestingly, Fiorentina, when you talk about the transition from Serie A to Premier League, Fiorentina is a very low chance creating team. They only create 1.7 chances per game on average. Chelsea, by comparison, last season created 2.4 chances per game. Inter Milan, by comparison, where Lukaku played, created 3.1 chances per game, out of which Lukaku got a goal return of 24 goals, whereas Dusan, playing with half almost goal chances produced by his team, created almost the same amount of goals. So I think there is a strong argument there for this player thriving in a squad like Chelsea in the Premier League, because the amount of chances that our team creates will lead to similar, if not improved, production numbers over the course of the season.
That's a very, very powerful argument there. So your point is that he would do even better at a club in a club like Chelsea, or a club that creates more chances than Fiorentina did this past season. McKyle, can you tell us, how does he? I know we've established that he has just 3 goals less than Romelu Lukaku. Are you able to compare the 2 players so we can have clarity on how they differ?
I would say Lukaku's a little slower, but perhaps Lukaku has a little more, what's the right word? A little more
power, maybe.
I wouldn't even say power. I think projection of power. Players tend to play a little off Lukaku because he can be physical, so they give him a little more space to do his thing. Whereas Dushan's more used to fighting for the ball and fighting for the turn on the ball and fighting for the aerial duels. So I would say that he's more hungrier on the pitch than a Lukaku. He's more agile. He's more active. So Lukaku does what he does, but Lukaku's unique to what he does. He's a very heavy set guy, and he uses his weight well in how he plays. So he can afford to be slightly slower by comparison to some of the younger strikers, probably, but he can still do what he does. Vlahovic, by comparison, is strong, but he's also more agile, and he's able to hustle more, both individually and for the team. So I think that there are similarities there, but there's also some areas that I like about Vlahovic's game, which I potentially don't see in Lukaku's game, where Lukaku is considered to be a little more lethargic in general persona, in general energy, whereas he conserves his energy a little bit. You could say argue. Vlahovic is more keen to run with the ball, more keen to fight for tackles, more keen to fight for aerial duels. So he's a little more involved in the game, let's say, than a Lukaku would be, and that I think transitions better to Tuchel's style of playing as well, where he's not necessarily looking for a traditional center forward to just stand in the box and wait for delivery and poach a goal here, poach a goal there, which potentially was Tammy Abraham's criticism through the past year, where he wasn't seen to be doing enough. Maybe in the build-up, or maybe in terms of synergies being created with other attackers on the pitch. I can see Dusan combining well with the other attackers, the wingers on the pitch, and creating both for themselves and for himself.
Great response there, and thank you for taking the time to explain the difference between Romelu Lukaku and Dusan Vlahovic. It's important that the viewers or the Chelsea fans understand how they differ, and then make the correct choice in terms of who will be the better player for the club. And great point there when you said how Dusan gets involved in the game more than Lukaku does, and that better suits our current style of play, because Tuchel wants every player to be involved, not just he doesn't want a striker who will stand there and wait to get at the end of crosses. He wants a striker who will get involved in the game. When you can't score, you create the chances for your fellow teammate, and that makes great sense. It makes sense now that why you're suggesting Dusan Vlahovic to Chelsea. So another question I have for you, McKyle. We've established the difference between the two players. Now, specifically, can you please explain to the fan base or whoever that will get to watch this video, what problem Dusan Vlahovic will solve for us should we secure his signature today?
Primarily, he'll give a rotation option with Kai Havertz as the false nine right now, where Kai Havertz has to be utilized in that position. You have a dedicated forward that can actually play that position as well now. However, he can come to a bit of a hybrid role where he can also maybe function as a false nine, quote unquote, although he is a dedicated striker, if needed. If that's how tactically the team wants to set up, he's more likely to be able to play both roles when needed than compared to somebody like a Lukaku, let's say. So I think that there is that ability for him to blend with the current tactical philosophy of Thomas Tuchel that we've seen in the previous season. Also, one thing I like about Dusan is that he has an excellent shot. He has a hammer of a left foot. In some ways, he reminds me of maybe Mohamed Salah in terms of the elegance of his left foot, but he can shoot from distance. He's a forward. He's not a winger. He's a forward, and he knows how to use that left foot. He can shoot from outside the box. He can shoot from within the box, and once he hits at them, they stay hit. So there is something that I like about him that I've seen, that there is that element of he captures the imagination. When he's on the ball, you actually want to see what he's going to do with it, because he has that little bit of magic about his left foot, the way he strikes the ball, the way he creates that space to get the shot away. He's a player that brings you to the edge of the chair when you're watching him play. And I think these are things that we as Chelsea want from whoever comes to fill that role as the striker for the club.
Yeah, perfectly said. So all in all, your argument there from that last response is that he's better suited for the way we play than Romelu Lukaku.
I would tend to say that, especially given the valuation being a third of what Romelu Lukaku potentially will come for right now. So Dusan is right now valued at about between 35 to 40 million pounds. Now you can add the English tax or Premier League club tax or whatever to that, but he's definitely a player that's under 50 million right now in terms of market valuation, possibly even under 40 million. And when you see clubs like Tottenham being linked with him already, I can see him excelling at a club like Tottenham. Let's say Tottenham let Harry Kane go this summer. If Dusan steps in, I can see him immediately setting up synergies with somebody like Son, and slotting right into the way they play that game. I would maybe even argue that he's like a younger version of Kane. So there are a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I mean, since we're building for the future, you could argue that Dusan Vlahovic is a perfect signing for us because and it's not, you can't say, I mean, at 21 and also in the amount of games he's played for Fiorentina, he's garnered enough experience to play for us. McKyle, to be specific here, would you say Dusan Vlahovic is better than Romelu Lukaku or vice versa?
Listen, the two players are at opposite ends of their careers. Dusan is just starting out in his journey at 21 years of age. And I'm already comparing him to Lukaku. Lukaku is much older. He has 7-8 years more experience in many leagues, many clubs. Lukaku has much more experience. So I think that it's unfair necessarily to say that which one is better, but there are similarities in production. There are similarities in the position that they play and the role they play for their respective teams. I think Dusan is used to playing for teams that produce a lot littles, and his conversion rate for chances created is higher than 50%. It's 52, 53% for last season, compared to somebody like Timo Werner, let's say at Chelsea, whose conversion rate from chances is 22% for the season that we just gone by. So right there, you can see that there is an immediate impact to the team in terms of the area that we are struggling with, which is chance conversion. We create a lot of chances and we don't convert them. So this is a player that is basically converting 1 out of every 2 chances, which is a very high percentage for a striker in the modern game. So I genuinely think that this is an option worth considering, especially if somebody like Tottenham, which are our city and league rivals, is looking into securing this player. Maybe it's a good time for Chelsea to swoop in and keep this player from joining a direct rival and actually having him grow as a Chelsea player in the years to come.
Yes, I agree. I think, like you said, maybe it's time for Chelsea to swoop in and secure his signature, and so that he can grow with us. And you could argue that we have a better project than every other team in England right now. We won the Champions League, and we have a very young squad. We packed with talent in every department in the team, and I think it would make sense for the club to go.
We're the champions of Europe.
Exactly, we're the champions of Europe. Exactly.
So if we go in for somebody of this profile, and this is actually what started my research on this player, is that when we're chasing somebody like Haaland, the conversation is, does he want to come to Chelsea, even though we're champions of Europe now? So maybe we need to switch gears and actually go for players that would actually be honored to play for a champion of Europe, the reigning champion of Europe, as opposed to somebody maybe that's posturing and that has, other narratives on his mind. Maybe he wants to go play at different clubs or whatnot. Whereas Dusan Vlahovic is going to be a player that it would be a step up from even a Tottenham for him to play at Chelsea. So if Tottenham and Chelsea come in for a bid right now this summer, who do you think he would choose?
Definitely us, because we have the most attractive project and we are the current champions of Europe. It's an obvious choice for him. Yeah. So now your argument, I believe, constructed to like dislodge Lukaku as the alternative to Erling Haaland, and you want Dusan Vlahovic to be that alternative to Erling Haaland, right?
100%.
Good. I'm for it. So, but now let's take Lukaku out of the way right now. Now we have Erling Haaland and Dusan Vlahovic. How that is the two players. How do they compare?
That's a good question. From the XG XA point of view, Haaland outperforms pretty much every other striker in the world right now. So in terms of how do they compare, the stats from the XG and XA perspective, expected goals and expected assists perspective, blow everybody out of the water. Like he is a level above. Like the only players you can potentially compare Haaland to in terms of statistics for XG and XA are maybe Lewandowski, maybe a Kane. Then that's it. So Haaland is a generational talent. I'm not going to say that Vlahovic is a generational talent, but Vlahovic will be an excellent player. We will hear his name. He will play at bigger clubs than Fiorentina. It will not take long. It will probably be this summer that he gets a move to a better club, a bigger club, and the world stage. Haaland, if Haaland is coming, that's fine then. We've already got the best option that's available in the current market. But if
so
Haaland,
go ahead.
No. But if Haaland is not possible, then this is a very shrewd option available in the market right now for an excellent, very reasonable price.
Okay, so now you arguing that right at this point that Haaland, in terms of his statistics, is a better player.
100%. From what we've seen so far.
Go ahead.
From what we've seen so far, you cannot argue with the potential that Haaland is showing right now, and it would be disingenuous for me to insinuate that Vlahovic potentially is a better player than Haaland, right? Like nothing supports that. The stats don't support that. Possibly even the eye test doesn't support that because nothing to do with Vlahovic's game, but when you look at what Haaland does on the pitch, he creates
Numbers don't lie.
He has a presence on the pitch. He has an intimidation factor on the pitch, where he intimidates people around him, and he's able to actually get the better of defenders. And that's a unique talent out there. I would say that Haaland is a generational talent right now, and that's not to take nothing away from Vlahovic. Vlahovic is an excellent prospect. I think Vlahovic can be a very successful striker in the Premier League. And for any criticisms or any doubts that we can throw on Vlahovic making the conversion from a different league to Premier League, we can use the same doubts and arguments for a Haaland move as well. Maybe Haaland won't be as great in the Premier League as he is in the Bundesliga right now. And similarly, Vlahovic may not be the same player in the Premier League as he is in the Serie A. But I do feel that Haaland plays in Borussia Dortmund, who are a very attacking side, create a lot of chances, and he's able to get a very respectable goal return on the shoulders of the rest of that team. Whereas Fiorentina is a very low-scoring team. Dusan Vlahovic's 21 goals accounted for 43% of the total goals of that team last season. It's a very low-scoring side. There's a very low chance conversion, but given the chance, he's putting them away. So if you put him in teams around players that create more, I can say with reasonable amount of confidence that his production will actually increase. He can become a 25-plus goal striker a season easily, Vlahovic. And if you're bringing a Haaland to the team, if he's giving you 25 goals a season in the Premier League, I think we're all satisfied. So I'm making the argument that even a Vlahovic can potentially give us 25 goals a season.
Absolutely. Like we've already established, if he plays in a better team and a team that creates more chances, that he's capable of scoring more goals. Fiorentina doesn't create that much chances during games, and he's scored 40% plus of their goals. So that shows his capability in front of goal. And all the things I like that you said about him is his quality on the ball, his pace, his aerial capabilities. I mean, he's an all-round striker. He's not just a poacher. He's not just a striker who waits to get the end of crosses. He is always involved in the plays, and like we've established, that's important to the way we play. So now it's clear, as they say, numbers don't lie. So obviously, at this point on, Erling Haaland is better than Dusan Vlahovic, but Dusan, we've established, has the potential to become even better. So, McKyle, that's by the way. Okay, let's go straight specifically to his statistics. Can you take some time and give us a lowdown of his statistics in this past season?
So, Dusan participated in the season, the Serie A, and I'm going to reference the Serie A more than all competitions, because to me that's a better indicator of the player's performance across the season is when he's up against the same competition and the same type of teams. So in the Serie A, he participated in 37 games. He had an expected goal return of 18 goals. And he delivered 21. So he exceeded his expected XG. Of the 21 goals, 6 were penalty conversions. So he had 13 goals from open play. And he converted essentially 13 goal scoring chances out of 25. So he missed 12, he converted 13. But that, if you look at the ratio, is higher than 50% conversion ratio.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Compare that to Timo Werner, he only scored 22% of the chances created. So right now, this is the kind of conversion rate that we need at the club. I'm not talking about names. Right now, we need a striker that can come in and put 1 out of every 2 at least away. So this is interesting for me as looking at somebody that can score both from the spot, but also from open play. As a striker, we want somebody that can actually score from open play. We're dying to see that because we have all these exciting attacking players playing in our squad, but we're suffering in front of goal. We're not converting our chances. So to me, that's very exciting. In terms of assists, he had a XA expected assist of 0.07. He exceeded that to 0.09 as well. So he is exceeding his XG and XA over the course of the season at Serie A, at a professional top tier 1 league. He's winning 3.1 aerial duels per game. 3.1 aerial duels per game. That is one of the highest that you'll find across all the top 5 leagues. Shots per game, he has 2.3 shots per game, which is again one of the higher rates. You can compare him to somebody like Haaland. Haaland has 3.3 shots per game. So Dusan has 2.3, albeit playing for Fiorentina, which is a team where he doesn't get as many chances to get shots off because they're not creating as many goal-scoring situations. And for me, right now, his strengths being headers, finishing, set pieces, being direct and indirect threat from set pieces, because he is good.
He's got everything.
He definitely will carry his weight. This is a player that I can really.
Yeah, the question I have, I think his statistics show he's a great prospect, and hopefully we're looking at him. The question I have right now, we've established that your argument is just for him, we shouldn't be looking at Romelu Lukaku as the alternative to Erling Haaland. We should instead be looking at Dusan Vlahovic as the alternative to Erling Haaland, right?
As the alternative to Lukaku.
As the alternative to Lukaku, not Erling Haaland. Exactly.
It's important to make that distinction because I am still making the argument that if we can land Erling Haaland, we should still go for Erling Haaland. And once we have landed Erling Haaland, it's not respectful to have a Dusan Vlahovic sitting on the bench wasting away because he's not.
That brings me to the question I wanted to ask. And first of all, I have to apologize for misrepresenting your argument.
No,
it
you're
was an
saying the same
intentional.
thing. You're saying the same thing. I'm just making it very clear
Okay.
that
Now,
I'm still in favor of chasing Haaland, regardless of
great. So my point is, what if the club decides, because if eventually we lose Tammy Abraham and Olivier Giroud is out of the door, do you think Erling Haaland and Dusan Vlahovic can play in the same team? Is it possible? Because we're a big team. We're Chelsea, and we need a big squad. And remember, we have quite a lot of games to play this coming season. We have the FA Cup, we have the Premier League, we have the Champions League, we have the Carabao Cup, we have the Club World Cup, and then we have one more game, the Super Cup. That's always 6. The Super Cup is just one game, but there's quite a lot of games to play, and we need a big squad to be competing on all front. So I know he's Serbian international. I'm asking you, is it possible? Is it as an international that is Serbian international, he would want to be starting games wherever he is or wherever he goes. But I'm asking, just from a different perspective, is it possible to have Erling Haaland and also have Dusan Vlahovic in the same team, and can they play together on the pitch that is in a game?
100%, 100%. Because he's not simply a target man. He's not standing in the box waiting for delivery. He's actually hustling all over the pitch, trying to string an attack together. Being left-footed, if he's playing to the left of a Haaland, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, tends to work from the right side of the pitch towards goal at Dortmund. So if they're playing together, let's say, and Dusan is playing as an inside forward from the left, maybe the Timo Werner position or the Pulisic position. I can see synergies there as well. So definitely this is something that if you want an embarrassment of riches, we can definitely create that synergy there. From what I've seen from Dusan Vlahovic's video recordings, that he combines well with the build-up of attacks. And I keep saying this, that he can turn with the ball. What's Pulisic's biggest advantage over Timo Werner? Timo does not turn with the ball. Pulisic can turn with the ball. So I'm drawing that comparison, that Dusan can also turn with the ball. So we're not giving up that if we bench Pulisic and play Dusan in that position, advance forward, but maybe a shadow forward or maybe a second forward, he can still drop down and actually help with the build-up of the play and then join that finishing movement in the box as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to explain to the viewers how that can work. That is in case we have both players in our team, it's important to understand we can actually have them both, and also have them both in on the pitch at the same time. That's important to know. So another question before we round off, another question I wanted to ask is, now I'm sure you know about Amanda Breuer very well. You know Breuer, you know how well he's done in the Dutch league. And there's been talks that he may come back. He may actually be in the first team. So if Chelsea secures the signature for Erling Haaland and also goes for somebody like Dusan Vlahovic, as we've established, we have a very attractive project, and we're the champions of Europe. So there's a less chance that he will say no to us. How do you think that will affect the development or integration of Amanda Breuer into the team, which means we'd have to bring him back? And because he's done quite well, he's actually done well, better than most of the guys in the squad right now. He scored a few goals, and I think he's assisted a few. So what do you have to say about that?
Listen, our academy prospects are a different discussion. I don't want to bring any scouting options into direct competition with our academy prospects. What I do understand is that while I haven't followed Broja's performances in the Dutch division, I think he's in, but I do understand that he's an exciting prospect, potentially similar to somebody like a Vlahovic. But he is 3 years younger to a Vlahovic, whereas Dusan is still doing it, in a second-tier league or a second-tier club. Well, maybe that's disrespectful, but Syria is not an easy league. Syria is a tough league, and Dusan is playing in the Syria at a top level team in the Premier competition, and he is delivering already. He's 3 years senior to Broja, so I don't see a problem with Broja joining the squad and being an understudy to both strikers, because I'm sure he can learn from both, and I'm sure that he can match them and give them a run for a starting position come the choice. But I think that there is a misconception, or maybe there is a bad habit in the Chelsea fan base where we tend to put our academy prospects in direct competition with first team players. Academy prospects are supposed to be blended into the squad and generally phased into game time. They do not merit being given a starting position right out of the academy. That's a misconception, and that's something we're guilty of as a fan base, where every single player that comes out of the academy, we want them starting. And that's not how things are done. And Thomas Tuchel has shown us that that's not how things are done. When you have young players, they're supposed to be phased in. You give them opportunities to shine, but you also give them opportunities to sit on the bench and observe the more experienced players and learn and grow in tactically as well. And this is the pressure that we tend to put on the manager and the club to give game time to anybody from the academy is a little misguided, I think. I think that Broja, if he joins us for next season as an understudy to whoever the first team starting strikers are, that's no disrespect to Broja. Broja will get game time, whether it's cup time or maybe substitute appearances in games where it's the manager feels it's okay to give him some game time. He'll be learning. He'll be absorbing. He'll be part of potentially, arguably one of the best squads in the world right now. We are the champions of Europe. So whether he gets game time or he has to sit on the bench like Olivier Giroud had to for most of the season, there is nothing wrong with either scenario. And I think that Broja potentially can be a great striker for Chelsea too. But he is 18, 19 years old right now. We cannot put that kind of pressure on him to join the club and score 25 goals for us next season. But if we bring in somebody like a Vlahovic, I am okay to put that kind of pressure on him because he is doing it already at the top level in a top league. So my argument there is that they are not necessarily competing. Broja is a fantastic prospect, but he is an academy prospect, and let's blend him into the first team squad and build his confidence up and his repertoire of games up over the season and over the coming seasons. I have absolutely nothing against Broja. Broja is a fantastic prospect from what I've seen, but is he experienced enough right now to take on the mantle of being a starting striker? I don't think so, and it's unfair to put him in that spotlight.
Yeah, I think you make a great argument there. It's not fair how we put pressure on our academy prospects. We should understand that it takes patience and time. You'd have to train with the first team, understand how the manager wants the team to play, learn, observe, and then you have a great path to the first team or path to starting games every time. But we've been quite impatient with our academy prospect, and you could argue that's why most of them end up not reaching the potentials, because we put so much pressure on them that it's enough to weigh them down because they're young and they're not used to dealing with that much pressure. And again, I like the way you explained that Broja should still be part of the team no matter who we sign. And that brings me to mind the journey of what's this the boy from Manchester City,
Foden.
who?
Phil Foden.
Phil Foden. He was patient. He learned how the manager wants the team to play, and he you could say he constructed a path for himself to the first team because he was very patient, and he started the UEFA Champions League final ahead of Sergio Aguero and Gabriel Jesus. That's why we have to learn to be patient with the academy products. And again, that's why I've always argued that is loan moves aren't always the best for them, because you'd have to be exceptional on loan to come back and walk straight into the first team. Even at that, it will still take some time for you to, get acquainted with how the manager wants the team to play. So I don't think it is fair to always put that much pressure on our academy players, and I agree with you. So, McKyle, please, on the final note, can you please take some time and explain, to the viewers or the fans, why you want Dusan Vlahovic to be the alternative to Erling Haaland instead of Romelu Lukaku, what he brings to the team and how he can make us better.
Yes, thank you, Coachella. Thank you for having me on and allowing me the platform to scout for Chelsea. Dusan Vlahovic is, again, as we covered, a young prospect. He's a fantastic striker with 21 years of age. He has about 10 years of good production ahead of him. And right now he's valued at under or around 40 million. So he's definitely a bit of a steal right now from what the future holds in terms of return on investment. When we consider somebody like a Lukaku, you're probably paying upwards of $80 million to get him in the club, probably more than that even, because Inter Milan will not be that motivated to sell him right now, given on the back of having won the Serie A league. But if we do bring Lukaku in, what do we get from Lukaku? Maybe 1 or 2 years at the top, maybe 3 years. Whereas for somebody like Dusan, who's potentially half the price, if not a third of the price, we're getting 7-8 good production years from a quality striker that's up and coming. That is yet to be explode onto the scene. But I think this is a fantastic window, this summer window, for Chelsea to swoop in and secure potentially an excellent player for the club for years to come, especially when rivals are already sniffing around the player and are interested in bringing that player to the Premier League to replace players like Kane. And if Harry Kane replacement is Dusan Vlahovic potentially, that tells you right away that he's good enough to step into big boots. So I think that Chelsea, being Chelsea, having a history of doing the right thing and keeping the best players from joining our rivals, should be stepping in this window and securing this excellent player, Dusan Vlahovic, from Fiorentina. And let's bring on the next season, and let's bring on the goals.
Thank you very much, McKyle, for taking the time to explain to the fans why we need Dusan Vlahovic as the alternative to Erling Haaland and not Romelu Lukaku. It's been an absolute pleasure, and as always, talking football with you, my friend. I appreciate you finding time to be here because I know you're a very busy man, and I look forward to bringing you back for another episode of Scouting for Chelsea, or maybe in an episode of one of the series that I have on Chelsea Perspective. McKyle, thank you very much again. I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate you finding time to be here with me to present this episode to the fans. Again, I say thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. All the best. Really enjoying this series. Coachella, keep up the good work. Keep the blue flag.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that coming from you. Thank you.